Hello kids, welcome to another episode of Scratch. It's still your Scratch tutor, Ijoma. So today we'll be looking at cloning and multiple sprites. Okay, so these are the things you'll be learning today. What cloning means, that's copying something, how to create clones in Scratch, how to create multiple games using logic and events, how to solve problem and coding skills. Alright, so what is cloning? Cloning means making an exact copy of something in Scratch. We can clone sprites, which means making extra copies of a character that do the same thing. So now we'll head to our Scratch to do a mini project to enable you understand what cloning is all about in Scratch. Alright, so in this project we are going to make a balloon create clones of itself with different colors and sizes. Okay, here are the steps we'll be taking. We'll go to our sprite library and we'll choose a balloon, the balloon that have multiple costumes, right? So we'll choose our block. Of course, the first block we'll be using is when the sprite is clicked. The next block we'll be using is create clone of myself. The next block we'll be using is when I start as a clone. The next block we'll be using is go to random position. The next block we'll be using is set size to 100%. And then the next block we'll be using is pick random 50 to 100. And the last block we'll be using is our next costume block, which I know you are already familiar with. Okay, so now we'll head on to our Scratch app to create it. Okay, so now we'll have to delete our cat because we don't need cat for this project. We'll go on and we delete, right? So we'll go to our sprite library and then you go to your search bar and look for balloon. Okay, you search for balloon. Alright, our balloon is here. We choose our balloon. And yeah, our balloon is here on the stage. And did you notice that our balloon have up to, yeah, we have 3 costumes. The blue costume, the yellow costume, and the purple costume. So now, we'll head back to our code. Right? And now it's time to code. So the first block we'll be using is click on your events and then choose when this sprite is clicked. We're not using when green flag is clicked this time around. Okay, when the sprite is clicked, what should happen? Create clone of myself, right? So we'll head on to our controls. That is where you can find your clone blocks. Okay, then you choose create clone of myself is right here. You drag and you drop it in your script area. Okay, create clone of myself. Okay, now we'll head on to pick another block. Still in our controls, you choose when I start as a clone. You drag and you drop it in your script area. Okay, the next block we'll be using is go to random position. But before we start, let's click on our green flag to see the 2 block we joined. Let's see what will happen with it. Let's click. Okay, now it's not working because I'm clicking on my green flag and I didn't code for green flag. Okay, I programmed this thing to be when the sprite is clicked, right? So we have to click on the sprite, not on the green flag. So let's click. It's actually duplicating. Okay, it's creating clone, but the clone is at a pace, so you have to separate it. Can you see that it has been creating clones since I've been clicking on it? You see? All right, now I'll click on my stop to clear it up. Okay, now let's continue with this. When I start as a clone, what should happen? Go to random position, right? You go to your motions block and you look for go to random position. It's right here. You drag and you drop. Okay, Next block we'll be using is to set size to, because we want it to be cloning with different sizes and different costumes. So we get our set size to. This is the first time we're using this particular block. So we'll head on to our looks. You can find it in looks, right? Yeah, it's here. Set size to, you get it and you drop it under here to 100. 100 is already this size, so we want it to change the sizes randomly, right? So we'll go to our operators and we'll look for pick random block. Okay, it's right here. You get it and you drop it on top of this set size to 100. You are dropping it on top of 100, all right? Drop it there. Okay, and you click here. You're going to change this value, this one, you change it to 50. Okay, we want it to change sizes from 50 to 100, right? So we're going to change this 10 to 100. Okay, when I start as a clone, go to random positions, set size to pick random 50 to 100%, right? Now it's remaining one more thing. Then we'll look for our change costume block. Okay, so our costume block is in our looks. You go to your look, get me your next costume block and you drop it under set size too. All right, our project is ready. Let's see what will happen when we click on the balloon. Whoa, you see, I clicked on it and then it's made a clone with different size, right? You see that? Let me click again. Okay, it have 3 costumes. I want the 3 costumes to be here on the stage, not just the yellow and blue. You see, anytime I click on the blue balloon, it's giving me the yellow balloon, right? So let me click on the yellow balloon to see the color it's going to produce. Now I clicked on the yellow balloon and it's giving me a purple balloon. All right, you see that? And when I click on the purple balloon, let's see the costume is going to give me. Whoa, it's giving me the blue balloon with different sizes randomly, right? Okay, this is what clone is all about. Okay, you use it to create extra sprites with identical looks, right? So you can use it to create your game and other projects in Scratch. So we are done with this. Now you've understand what cloning is all about. We'll go on and create a game. Okay, let's head back to our slide to see the next thing we have there. All right, here is the project we just created, right? So now we'll be heading on to see the next thing we have. Okay, now it's time to create game. Okay, and the game we are going to create now is named Rain Catch. All right, we are going to create a game named Rain Catch. We'll achieve this with 2 sprites, the crystal and the arrow sprites. Okay, and a backdrop named Blue Sky. You are familiar with your blue sky, right? You did assignment with it already, so you know your blue sky backdrop. And then you catch the rain with the arrow to earn some points. Okay, so this is an interesting game, so you have to pay attention to get it right. All right, let's continue. So here are the steps we'll be taking, and this is what your game will look like by the time we are done. The first step, of course, is to head to our sprite area to choose our crystal and our arrow, right? Then the next step, of course, is to choose our backdrop. Okay, after that we start coding. We code for our arrow first, right? See that? Here is our arrow. We're going to code for our arrow first. So the first block we'll be using here is when green flag is clicked, and the second block we'll be using is set my variable to. We change the variable to score. Okay, because we're going to be earning some points, so our variable will be counting our points and then keeping record for us, right? That's what variable is, you remember. So the next block we'll be using is our forever loop. The next block we'll be using is go to random position. Then we'll use when green flag is clicked again, and we drop it separately, not under the first when green flag is clicked block. we're going to drop it beside, still coding for the arrow, right? So the next block we'll be using is our forever loop again, and the next block we'll be using is our wait block. Then the next one we'll be using is create clone of crystal. All right, we're going to change create clone of myself to create clone of crystal. Then after that, we'll go and code for our crystal, of course. So the first code we'll be using for our crystal is when I start as a clone. The second code is our hide block. The next code is go to. The next code is pick random 1 to 10. The next code, of course, is our show. The next code we'll be using is repeat until. The next code we'll be using is our operator code greater than. Okay? Or is this the less than sound? Okay, this is the less than. We'll be using it. The next block we'll be using is our Y position. The next block is our change Y by 10. The next one we'll be using is if then loop. The next block is touching mouse pointer. The next block we'll be using is play sound. Okay, we're going to add a sound to make our game fun, right? The next block we'll be using is our hide block. The next one is our change score by 1. Then delete this clone and delete this clone. All right, I think that's the final one. Yeah, after that we'll play our project, see what we'll have, right? So now we'll head on to Scratch. Okay, let's do it together. I'll go on to my file and I'll click on new. You can go ahead and save your project to your computer. For me, I want to create a new project, so I'll click on OK. So now our default cat is looking so helpless here, right? Too bad, we have to delete it because we don't need it for this project, right? So you click on your delete button and then you delete. Let's head on to our Scratch, our Sprites library, and then we'll search. Okay, you don't have enough time to come and start scrolling. When you search, it brings it up quicker, faster. All right, let's search for our crystal. Crystal, where are you? Okay, our crystal is right here. Okay, now I'm hovering on the crystal and it's changing costume. All right, I have the costume 1 and the costume 2. The costume 1 is the blue color and the costume 2 is the purple color. Okay, with different shape. The crystal we'll be using is the purple color crystal, but we'll be changing the crystal color. Okay, we'll change the color to sky blue, make it look like a rain, because the crystal is what we use to create our rain, right? So we click on our crystal and our crystal is right here on our stage. So we have to head on to our costume to change the look of our crystal, right? So you follow my arrow, then click on your costume. It's right on top of your block palette. Click on it and our crystal is here, right, for us to do it anything we want, right? So we'll go on and we'll click on crystal B. We have crystal A. We don't want this crystal, we are using this crystal. So you click on your crystal B and it's right here. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is to select this particular crystal and change the color. Okay, now click on it and make sure your arrow that you selected your select to before you click on it, so it will highlight the whole crystal, so you give them one shade of color, right? And the color we are going to change it to is our sky blue color. Okay, so you head on to your fill and then you click on blue sky blue, right? That's it. Oh, we have a little problem. There is one tiny purple here, right? And we need to remove it. It's not supposed to be here. So you go on and you select that purple, just as I'm doing now. Select it and you delete. We don't need it. So this is exactly what I want our crystal to look like. Okay, now it's looking like rain, but we are still going to make some changes to reduce the size. Okay, so now let's go back to our code. Yeah, our crystal is here. Let's change the size of our crystal. Change it to 40 or 30. 30, so it will look like, woo, it's looking like raindrop now, right? Wonderful. So we have another sprite to choose. We need our arrow. You remember, right? So we head on to our sprite library and we locate arrow. Arrow 1. Okay? It's right here with the pink color. It's right here with the pink color. Let's check. Yeah, just picked it. Our arrow is right here on our stage. So let's go to our costume to change the costume. I think the arrow have up to, okay, the arrow have 4 costumes: the right costume, the left costume, the down costume, and the up costume. Okay, so we want it to have the right costume, I mean the left costume. Okay, the left costume. So we're going to flip it up. Okay, I just choose the left costume. We're going to flip it up to give it some kind of direction. Okay, we don't want it to be right, left, up, or down. We point it sideways, right? So now we'll go back to our code. Okay, then you come to your direction. Remember what I said about direction when you want to flip your sprite. Come here and then you get this direction map, right? You get your arrow and point it towards the direction you want it to be. So now this is the direction I want my okay. You see, as you're moving your arrow, your sprite is moving. So when you get the exact thing you want, you can leave it that way, right? So I've gotten the exact, yeah, this is it. It's pointing sideways. This is sideways, right? So it's pointing sideways. This is what I want. All right, now it's time to reduce this. Let's reduce the size of our arrow because it's too big. Our arrow is too big. It's bigger than the rain. Let's make it 50 and see. 50 is not bad, right? 50 is not bad. Okay, now it's time for us to choose our backdrop. We have chosen our 2 sprites, right? So let's head on to our backdrop library and then choose a backdrop. I said we'll be using our blue sky, right? We have 2 blue sky here, the blue sky with the green grass and the normal blue sky. So we're using our blue sky with the green grass, right? And then we'll change the color. Okay, we don't want it to have the blue sky look, so we change the color, right? So you choose it first before we change the color. It's right here. You see, you can't see the rain now. Our crystal is hiding here because they have the same color and we don't want that, right? So we'll click on our backdrop. We head to our backdrops just as I'm doing. You come right here. We need to change this color to give it when it's about to rain, you know, the color of the sky when it's about to rain. Okay, that's the color we are going to give to it, okay, to make our game more attractive and fun too. So we'll go on and we'll click on our fill to change the color. Okay, but then we need to choose. We have not selected our backdrops and we need to select our drawing before we start, right? So you select. I just selected it now. You see, it's highlighted. So now let's head on to our color. Okay, which color? Not this blue. Let's give it a darker look. When it's raining, you get this type of look, right? Yes, this is the look we have when it's about to rain, and that is it. Our crystal is now visible. Okay, so now it's time for us to code because our stage is ready and our sprites are ready too. So let's go back to our code. Okay, first off, we are going to code for our arrow, And remember what I said, when you want to code, you click on the sprite. Go to your sprite library and click on the sprite you want to code for. Because if we start coding now, we'll be coding for our backdrop and it's not going to work at all. Okay? When you want to code, you click on your sprite. So I want to code for arrow. I've clicked on arrow. Now let's head on to our script area to code. Now the first code we'll be using is when green flag is clicked. So you go to your events, you get me your when green flag is clicked block, drop it in your script area, and the next block we'll be using is our variable. But before then, we have to set a variable, right? So you click make a variable, right? You click in there and then you type in score for me, because it's going to be recording your score while you play the game, right? So this is your score. You click on OK. All right, and then you get me your set my variable block. You place it under when green flag is clicked, and you see this arrow down where my mouse is hovering. You all are familiar with our variables by now, so I believe you know what I'm talking about. Click on it and then change it to score. That's it. When green flag is clicked, set my score to 0. And the next block we'll be using here is our forever. You head on to your controls, get me your forever, and drop it under your variable block, right? So the next block we'll be using now is, go to your motions and look for, go to random positions. Okay, we want to position our mouse where our mouse will be when we start coding, right? And we want it to go to our mouse pointer. We have cheated our mouse pointer before in our previous projects, right? You remember what the mouse pointer does. So that's why I'm using this particular block. We want our arrow to be at the mouse pointer when the green flag is clicked. So now we have go to random position. You click on the arrow down and you change it to mouse pointer. That's cool, right? Let's continue. All right, you still have another thing to do here. Okay, you go to your when green flag is clicked, get me your block, drop it right here and look for your forever. Head on to your controls and get me your forever. Drag and drop, of course. And the next block we'll be using is wait 0.1 seconds. You get your wait block and you drop it inside your forever loop. Change the value to 0.1. Okay, we want it to wait 0.1 before it changes, before it creates a clone, right? We are talking about cloning, so don't forget that. So we head on to our controls. Okay, we are in controls. Let's scroll down and look for create clone. All right, here is the block. Get me this block, create clone of myself, and drop it inside your forever loop. Then you come here, click on your arrow down. We don't want it to create clone of myself, we want it to create clone of crystal, right? So go on and look for crystal. When you click on the arrow down, you see a drop down, right? Myself and crystal. Then we are choosing crystal. Okay, so the next, that's the code for our arrow, right? So the next code we'll be using now, the next thing we'll be doing now is to code for our crystal. We are done coding for our arrow, right? So now let's test and see what we have done. You remember I say when you are programming, you keep testing. Okay, you test to see what you have done. So if you have made any mistake, you have the ability to correct it before it's too late or before you have gone too far, thereby making you to start afresh. And you may not want to go through that stress, right? So you test your project as you are working on it. Now let's test our arrow and see if it's going the way we want, right? I'll click on my green flag and you see, just as I programmed it to work, you see that my arrow is at my mouse pointer. That's what I want. I want it to always be there when the green flag is clicked. okay, because we'll be using it to catch the raindrops, right? So let's click on our red button, and then you come down to your crystal. It's time to code for crystal. Okay, so click on your crystal. Okay, now we have an empty script area. Now it's time to code. You go to your controls and get me when I start as the clone block. Get it, drag it and drop it right here in your script area. And the next block we'll be using is your hide. Your hide can be found in your looks. Okay, you have to scroll down to see it. Okay, it's here. You drag and you drop. Okay, in Scratch we do a lot of drags and drops. So now the next block we'll be using is our go to. Okay, so we'll go to our motions. Get me your go to X and Y. Drag it and drop it. Okay, we want our raindrop to start from this position, right? But want it to be cloned randomly. Want it to be dropping randomly, not just at a pace. Okay, that's why we want to use this particular block to achieve it. So now we head on to our operators. Okay, and we get pick random. Okay, the pick random block will enable us to achieve this. Now you drop it right here on top of this 31. Your X position is on 31. You drop it there. Okay, that's it. Now you click here and we are going to change it to -220. Okay, this is the position of the upper part of your X axis. Remember what I told you about your Y and your X and Y coordinates. Okay, so now we'll head on. We want it to pick random position from -220 to delete this 10 and put 220 there, the negative X and the positive X. Okay, so that's it. Now we have to change this Y value. We change it to 194, right? 194. Okay, that's it. Now the next block we'll be using, of course, is our show block, right? So let's look for our looks. Get me your show block. Here is our show block. You drag it and you drop it here. Okay, all right, that's it. So the next block we'll be using now is our repeat until. This is the first time we are using this particular block, right? So we are introducing it now. You go to your controls, you click on it, and then you get me your repeat until. You can, it's right here, right? You drag it and you drop it. Okay, repeat until what happens? You head on to our operators. Get me the less than block. Can you see the less than 50 block there? You drag it and you drop it on top of your repeat until, on top, not inside. Okay, drop it there. All right, repeat until Y position is less than, right? This is the less than sign. Then we head on to our motion to get our Y position block. Let's search for our Y position block. Is right here. We drag the block and we drop it here in this space. Okay, we drop it there and we have to change the value of this 50. Okay, this is this position where my mouse is hovering. That's your Y axis on your screen. When it drops, when it gets to this place, you want something to happen, right? So that's what we are programming for now. Let's change it to minus. That will be a negative Y, right? click there, delete, minus 150. Okay, so now we have gotten our 150, right? Our negative 150. So the next thing will be picking now is our change y by. Okay, change y by 10. We get it and you place it inside your your repeat until. It's a loop, right? Place it inside, just the way you do with your forever loop and your if then loop. Okay, then you go on and then you delete this 10 and you add minus 10, minus 5. We're using minus 5. Yeah, that is the position. Okay, from here to here. Okay, so now I want us to test to see. Okay, let's test and see if what we are doing is working. Woo, our rain is dropping, is dropping, is dropping. Okay, but we need to add some more actions, right? We don't want it to drop and stay here, right? And we add some things. Let's just go and continue. Click on your red button and then we'll continue. Now the next block we'll be using is our if then loop. So you head on to your controls, get me your if then loop, drag and drop it inside your wait until. Drop it inside that loop, right? Just the way I'm doing. Now we need to add something here. If touching the other sprite, which is the arrow, we want something to happen, right? If touching, head on to your sensing block and get me your if touching mouse pointer. But we're going to change that mouse pointer to the sprite. So you come right here in your mouse pointer, you click on your arrow down, and then you click on arrow 1. That's the name of the next sprite, right? Yes, let's continue. So the next block we'll be using now is our play sound. Okay, if touching arrow 1, then play sound. We go to our sounds. We want it to play sound collect, and this is our collect, right? Our collect is right here, but if you don't have your collect here, I've already shown you how you can select your sounds. If you want, you go to your sound library and then you look for collect. You can search for it in your search bar, then you get the collect. Once you click on it, it should be here in your coding area. Then when you get there, you just change it. Okay, so now we want it to play this sound for me. Get the play sound until. Done. Drop it inside your if then loop. Okay, and then you get me your hide. Go to your looks, look for hide. Here's your hide. Get me your hide and drop it inside your if then. Okay, now we want another thing to happen. All right, if touching arrow 1, then play sound collect until done, and then hide. Okay, and we want something to happen. So when your arrow comes in contact with your crystal ring, we want it to add 1 score to your score, right? So now we'll go to our variables and get change my variable by 1. Drop it under your hide, still inside your if then loop, and you get here, click on your arrow down and change my variables to score. Okay, you change it to score just the way I'm doing, right? So let's click on our green flag before we add the final blocks and see. Woo, see that? Okay, my game is working already. You see, it's counting my scores for me. And this game is interesting. You see that we're catching raindrops, and then the sound is making it more interesting. But we still have another problem. Our rain is still right here. Okay, we don't want to be seeing it on our stage, right? So we go on and we click on our red button. We have to do something else. Okay, now we want something to happen. When the arrow touches the rain, we want the rain to hide, okay, and then it will add on score for us, right? And we want it to delete that particular clone. So we'll head on to our controls, click on your controls, and then scroll down. All right, we have our delete this clone, right? Get it and drop it for me under change score by 1, still inside your if then loop, and you head back to your controls and get me this same block again, and now we are dropping it under our blocks, okay? And that is it. Let's play. Ooh, exactly what I want, right? This is what we want. Oh, this game is so interesting. I'm enjoying it. All right. Okay, you click on your red button, okay? So let's read our blocks. When I start as a clone, hide. We're talking to the crystal, right? Go to X random position -220 to 220. Then for the Y coordinate, you go to 194. That's the position of the upper part of your stage, okay? Then show. Repeat until Y position is less than -150. Then change Y by -5. If touching R1, which is our second sprite, then play sound, collect until done, and then again hide. Change score by 1 and delete this clone. Then if we don't catch it at all, when it gets to the edge, also delete this clone. That will make our crystal, or our rain rather, not to get stuck at the bottom part of our stage. So that is it for today's class, okay? See you in our next class, and then keep scratching. As I always say, curiosity is part of learning, so you have to be creative, be curious, try out new things, go to your block palette, get familiar with your blocks, okay? So anytime you see any particular block, you can identify the block palette that it belongs to. All right, till next class. Bye for now.